You can find just about anything on the internet these days, but violent and disturbing content is becoming increasingly harder to come by.
The Verge reports that Google and YouTube have moderators working around the clock to scrub the internet of those kinds of videos. And that job has some serious consequences, like PTSD. Silicon Valley editor at The Verge, Casey Newton, joins us now. He's investigated the emotional toll of content moderation. So thank you so much for joining us. This is something I think that a lot of people don't think about, right? That when you flag a video that you think is inappropriate, someone else has to look at that and determine whether or not it is. And so they can't just sort of look at it for 2 seconds. They have to watch the video, right? Because we're talking about freedom of speech.
That's right. And as you can imagine, if you've been on YouTube, you know that some of those videos are quite long. And so it can take, many minutes or, and more than an hour to look through some of these videos and try to identify any violations that they might contain.
Mm-hmm.
So big tech companies like Google, YouTube, they're outsourcing their content moderators. Explain to our viewers what these content moderators actually do.
Yeah, so, as you mentioned, anytime somebody flags something because they think that it doesn't belong on Google or YouTube, a human being is going to have to look at that. And a lot of the content that gets flagged is essentially benign, right? Maybe it's spam or, somebody's trying to commit a little fraud. But there's also a lot of content that is extremely graphic and disturbing, content that would include violence or abuse of animals or children. And I spoke with folks who work exclusively on those kinds of subjects, and what they explained to me was that in exchange for very low pay and some pretty bad working conditions, they're getting PTSD and other mental health consequences.
And are they being supported in that way, like the companies that they work for? And I recall reading an article or a podcast or something about individuals in the Philippines who were looking at our stuff here. But you're talking about people who are working here in the States. Are they getting, I don't know, mental health intervention or anything to help them cope with this?
Well, they do have counselors at the facilities, typically, and they do get healthcare benefits, which contractors don't always get. But I can tell you that here in the United States, the folks doing this work are making about $35,000 a year, and the support that they get ends the moment they walk out the door, right? So if you do this job for a few months, you start to experience PTSD, and you quit to protect your mental health. Well, now you don't have a job, and you have PTSD, and it's going to be your responsibility to take care of it.
So content moderators in Austin, Texas are focusing on violent extremism. What company is behind this, and what are the moderators specifically looking for?
So in Austin, Google has contracted with Accenture, the giant global consulting firm, to essentially find the bodies necessary to review this kind of work. It's what I call the terror queue. These are folks who work around the clock looking exclusively at videos that have been flagged for violent extremism, right? So that would include any terrorist content. So Accenture has hired a large group of Middle Eastern immigrants and is paying them to look for videos that may promote ISIS, for example. Most of the folks who I spoke with who work in that queue told me that they're seeing multiple beheadings and acts of terrorism every day. And over time, they've told me that that's caused them a lot of mental health issues.
So listen, you work in the area of Silicon Valley. Isn't there an algorithm for this that would at least limit the number of people who have to watch this stuff?
Well, Google sure hopes so. Both Google and Facebook, who also needs to do this sort of moderation, are investing heavily in machine learning systems, artificial intelligence, hoping that someday they will have an algorithm that is able to remove all of this stuff. But when it comes to content moderation, there are typically nuances that are very difficult for a machine to pick up, right? Maybe somebody is holding up a hand sign in the background of an image that represents some sort of new, a terrorist or gang symbol that the algorithm isn't yet aware of. The case is that humans are simply better at doing this job right now, and most of the moderators and tech executives I speak with out here tell me they think that that's going to be the case for a long time.
Humans, sadly, are better at making this stuff as well. And I mean, I think about the volume. So I can't imagine just how much these people are viewing every single day. And they're missing probably a lot of the stuff that's on the internet.
Indeed.
Casey Newton, thank you so much.
Thank you.